Game of Thrones was pretty damn great before you know it wasn't. So let's go ahead and rank my top 5 episodes from the entire series, and yes, this will probably be a little controversial. Please remember this will be another vibes-based list, meaning I am the vibe. These are my vibes, how I feel, my opinions, whatever. Are they gonna match yours? Probably not, and you'll tell me all about them. Oh no! I already know that in a top 5 list, there are gonna be some very key episodes missing that most people like a lot and I think are pretty stupid. So if you want to hear me talk about those episodes, ask for a most dumbest episodes ever list, cool? First up at number 5, we have Season 1, Episode 9, Baelor. Yup! I will say this episode was probably a huge surprise for anyone who, hadn't tried to read the books beforehand, which was most of us, myself included. So yeah, this was a shock. It also very beautifully sets us up for the rest of the series, showing that there are real-world consequences for the mistakes that are made, in the context of the story. If you mess up, it doesn't matter if you are a main character, you're gonna, live to see the consequences or not live in this case. I will say, though, this scene isn't the only reason to love this episode. This episode has absolute bangers of scenes. Before, Ned's whole debacle here, you have Ned's scene in the dungeons with Varys, where they talk about, who actually suffers during the Game of Thrones. It's very interesting. I love a Varys scene, so we really eat with that. There's also the great, military fake out where Robb basically, splits his army, so he tricks Tywin, and then they end up capturing Jaime Lannister and winning a really huge battle against the Lannisters. And then beyond that, one of my all-time favorite scenes of the whole series is the Jon Snow and Maester Aemon scene, where Maester Aemon basically reveals to Jon Snow that he is a Targaryen, and it's just I don't know, it's such a good scene. It's so oh wow, this ancient person has seen shit, and Jon gets to be here and know him now. It's very cool. So Baelor, you're good. Next, at number 4, we're going to have Season 4, Episode 7, Mockingbird. Now, I think that this is a underappreciated episode of the show, because it kind of gets sandwiched between two really big bangers. So, right before this, you have The Laws of Gods and Men, where Tyrion has his amazing, trial speech, and then the episode after this is The Mountain and the Viper, where you have the Oberyn Martell mountain fight that ends in, squish. And I realized that me putting this episode on my top 5 rather than one of those is going to upset some people, but please rest assured, I like those episodes, but I think those episodes as a whole, they're fine. I think those scenes in particular are some of the strongest scenes in the entire series, but as a whole, there are chunks of those episodes that I don't love. There are adaptation choices that I do not love, so in general, I think Mockingbird is kind of just the stronger episode, because overall, it's just banger after banger of a scene with this episode. Obviously, you have the big finale here, which is wild. You have Littlefinger being a creep with Sansa the whole episode. It makes your skin crawl. And then, instead of comforting her niece, Lysa Tully loses her shit, threatens to throw Sansa out the goddamn moon door, only for fucking Littlefinger to Uno reverse her and yeet her through the hole in the ground. It's so good. But beyond that, there's so many more good scenes that are just either fun or really cool within the context of the story. You have Brienne and Pod trudging through the Riverlands and then stopping at the inn where they meet Hot Pie. That whole scene is comic gold. I do not care what anyone says. And then there's the two really powerful scenes, in my opinion, where you have Sansa and the Hound meeting the dying man on the side of the road, and then they have to kill him, but they have that conversation beforehand, and it's just again, it's really indicative of the point of the series where, it's the small folk who suffer while the lords play their Game of Thrones. And then finally, one of my all-time favorite scenes, and I think, this is really the justification for putting it above the other big Oberyn scene, the other big Tyrion scene, is Oberyn and Tyrion's conversation in the dungeon, where Oberyn offers to be his champion and also tells him about when he met Tyrion as a baby and the whole fuckery with Cersei, just that whole thing. That scene is in this episode, and I think that is one of the best scenes in the whole series. And because we get such a strong scene from both of them, alongside the rest of an episode that is really a banger. That's why I think this episode, for me, edges out those other two. Up next, we have season 2, episode 9, Blackwater. This giant set piece, wildfire, explosions, giant battle. It's in episode 9, so you know it's gonna be crazy. But Blackwater, I will be honest, I love this episode, and I don't always love like the super like battle heavy episodes. It's just like not my thing. I really like the interpersonal stuff, but Blackwater nails the balance between like the huge spectacle and these moments of just like intensity and vulnerability where the characters like reveal a little bit of themselves. Also, overall, this episode is so nerve-wracking, or at least I remember it being so nerve-wracking, because remember, this is only season 2, and it's the episode 9 of season 2, so the last time we were in this position in the season was when Ned lost his head. So here, I remember as a fan who hadn't yet read the books being like, who's gonna die? I know someone big is gonna die. So this whole episode, I was like legit like ready and on the edge of my seat. But beyond that though, everyone in King's Landing gets like an interesting moment that's either like inspiring or very revealing. Joffrey, you almost like see him want to be like a good king for a second, but he's such a coward that he recedes at the first opportunity that he gets. You have Sansa for like starting to learn her ability to like control people, but like through a feminine lens. And I don't mean like control people in a negative way, but like there's the scene where they're all like all the women are hiding and they're all starting to panic because Cersei doesn't give a shit about comforting everyone, and Sansa is able to take control of the room and like redirect their energies in a positive way so that they don't lose their minds. And then of course there is that intense Cersei and Tommen scene where she is like ready to off the two of them, and she's telling him like this like nursery rhyme story about like the lion being like chased in the woods by the stag while they're sitting on the throne with the poison. It's so much, and it's so cool. Also, I would love to point out that this episode right here was written by George R.R. Martin himself back when he, used to write an episode a season. Oh, those were the fun days. So another reason it's pretty damn good. Next, at number 2, we have season 3, episode 4, and Now His Watch Has Ended. This episode is so good. This is the episode where the big set piece is, of course, Daenerys getting the Unsullied and tricking the slave masters into thinking that she didn't know Valyrian, and then pretending to sell the dragon, and then turning the dragon against them, and then they like slaughter all the masters, and it's so cool, and yeah. I will say, this is one of those instances where I actually do think that the TV show improved an element from the books, and that's because there is the reveal that Dany knows High Valyrian. In the books, you have her meeting with the slave master, I want to say like 2 or 3 times before she actually gets the slaves, and then during that time, because we're in her head, we know that she understands, and she's just not saying anything. So when, that reveal happens later, and the slave master's like, what? It's like not like a huge reveal for the audience, it's only like a reveal for like the people there, and it's satisfying. But here, the way that she tricks like not only the slave masters but everyone, I remember the fucking like neck like whip of like Jorah when he realizes that she's like speaking Valyrian. It's so good. This whole I fucking love it. But there's also other insanely good elements of this episode. You have the scene with Varys and Tyrion where Varys is telling him the story of like what happened to him when he was younger, and like the wizard, and hearing the words in the flames, and then he cracks the crate open and the wizard is there. I love it. And also Varys and Olenna in a scene together, which is just like the 2 sassiest divas in the world. We stan. So for anyone watching House of the Dragon, I'm going to caution you not to maybe rewatch this episode until that show wraps, because Joffrey fully spoils the end of House of the Dragon, just off the cuff in a random scene with Marjorie in like 1 sentence. Like, so-and-so kills so-and-so with so-and-so, and this is where so-and-so blah blah blah. And you're just like, what? Well, on the rewatch, I was like, what? And I was like, oh, I guess this is spoiled. This was before I had read them. So just beware, all I'm saying. And then at number 1, you just gotta, cause it is, season 3, episode 9, The Rains of Castamere, The Red Wedding. What more is there to say? This was insane. This was a cultural moment. Hearing about this, not like spoiler-wise, but hearing about this scene is what got me to originally watch the TV show. We didn't have cable, and I had to like illegally stream it on my phone. And I remember like holding this little screen like up to my face and being like, what is happening? This is insane. It's gut-wrenching. It subverts expectations, but in a way that makes logical sense with the rest of the story, something that would be lost, as it went on. That's all the time I have, so feel free to like comment what your favorite episode is, and yeah, good night, y'all.